Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lisa Morris with Hudson Valley Credit Union. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I think is on a lot of people's minds because after 2 years, it's time to get away. We're going to be talking about traveling in the post-pandemic world. And we have two experts with us today for two different sides of the coin. First off, we're going to be speaking with Irene Hunt, which some of you may know as the owner of Hunt Travel. She has been a travel agent for over 40 years, I believe it is. And actually, I've had the pleasure of knowing Irene for over 30 years now. And she'll give us some of her expertise. And then we'll also talk with Sarah Gillespie. And Sarah is our Assistant Vice President of Payment Strategies here at the credit union. And she's going to talk a little bit about how we actually use our money as we're traveling. So Irene, I'm going to start with you. And as you can tell, I'm looking for a tropical place. I need a beach. It's crazy. But as the world is reopening and things, what are some of the popular destinations that people are looking at these days?
So the popular destinations are still the Caribbean. The Caribbean has some great deals. The best deals are in Jamaica, Cancun, and Punta Cana. When I look at the Caribbean, yeah, those are great places to go, but I look at St. Lucia, it's one of my favorite. They're all offering deals. It's just a matter of when you're going at that point. So the Caribbean is first, and a lot of people are starting to open up with Europe. They want to go to Italy, they want to do Greece, Spain, three of the biggest ones out there. And now, and Iceland. Everybody wants to go to Iceland.
Really?
For 4 days. So
and you can get there
and
you can get there and back in 4 days and not have terrible jet lag?
Exactly, because it's a short flight. It's under 5 hours, I believe.
Okay.
So I've had people just go out on a Thursday night and come back on a Monday. Just great, absolutely great.
Wow. Is some of the reason that these are popular because those are some of the safer regions? Are people paying attention to the CDC listings of places to travel?
Oh, that would be so nice, but they don't pay attention. They want to go and then they decide, now a lot of the restrictions have been loosened. What they've done is some of the islands don't require the test. Cruises still do require a test before you board, and still to come back to the US, you still need to have a test. But the primary when they call is not, do I need a test to get there? Primary is, I need to get out, just like you said. Tropical, I want to go to the beach. I want out of here. Let's see what we can do.
Are there some places that you might advise right now to avoid?
That's a tough call because they're still staying within the Caribbean. There's nothing out there that says don't go. Europe, there's still, Italy. I think I would just err on watching a little bit before I went. I would just look to see how they're stacking up with their disease and how the coronavirus goes. There were a lot of restrictions as far as Italy, but I have clients, I'm anxious, very good clients, as a matter of fact, friends coming back from Greece and Italy next week. And I keep getting emails. They're having a wonderful time. So is there anything I'd stay away from? No, it all depends on when you're going and what's going on.
Are a lot of people flying as families, like in groups and things like that? It's not just couples trips, right?
No, I've had some. No, I have. Well, as a matter of fact, I only had a family of 4 of that would be it. But I've had couples, 3, 4 couples going out and getting together. And they're continuing to go together. But it's not, it just depends on who's going to go. The unfortunate part with the group side of it is that you can go out there and say, hey, I got a great idea and I want to go here. And what do you think? And everybody says, yeah, let's go. Come on, let's do it. And then what day? Oh, this is great. Yep, that works. And then all of a sudden, comes down to the nitty gritties, and then the group deal doesn't usually work. So, we're still going with the onesie, twosie type of couple, and the small families, not large gathering, not 50th wedding anniversary, bring the family in. Yeah, they're still going.
Is there any kind of magic to what day of the week you should travel? I know I've heard some awful things lately about flights being canceled. There's pilot shortages, things like that. Is there any kind of typical, it's really good if you fly this day or this time?
Well, see, that's the problem. The virus and being shut down for 2 years did a job on every walk of life, particularly the airline industry, the hospitality industry. When everything hit and the airlines were doing everything they could to stay afloat and do everything to their clients to make sure they stay with them, they had to lay off pilots, they had to decrease their aircraft size. So now the unfortunate part, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, listen, when I started, I could go back 25 years ago, before 9/11, I could tell you the best day, I could tell you the best month, I could tell you right down when they were going to have a deal or whatever. That's not the case. Everything is based on availability now. And the availability is, you can't come out, I want to leave on July 25. I'm not flexible. Well, if you're not flexible, you may not be going on July 25, because when I take a look at the airfare, for instance, a client wanted to go to California. The California deal months ago was $400 less. Dilly dally, dilly dally, dilly dally. And what happens? It's over $800 now for the same round trip. But you see, people don't understand that they don't have the aircraft. They don't have the pilots. Yeah, just what you said, people are screaming because somebody said, well, how do I know I'm not going to get stuck? This is for travel a couple months away. Well, how do I know we're not going to have a snowstorm tomorrow? I don't know that. We don't know what the deal is. The day before, you would check, you have to proceed. You have to make a decision, and you have to look at it. You have to be flexible. And most importantly, you have to decide on what your budget is going to be, because that's another thing. When you go back on your popular destinations, just to flip 1 minute, is that people say, I just want to get out of here. I don't care how much it costs. Yeah, really? Okay, fine. So now I'm going to tell you how much it's going to cost now. Are you going to care? Yeah. So now they care about what it's going to cost. So the time of day, you have the flexibility. It's no longer Tuesday, Wednesday. It's no longer midnight. It's no longer 6 o'clock in the morning. It just depends on the availability, and it's flipping every day. From one day I can book today, not ticket then, ticket today, because I have 24 hours, and it can go up $10 or $15. I mean,
Wow.
And they're all going up. That's the problem.
So if someone's traveling without the benefit of a travel agent, because that's one of the nice things about having a travel agent is you have an advocate in your corner. But if someone's traveling and they're stranded, they get that call that their flight's been canceled. Are there tips that you can give to people on how to rebook that flight? Is it better to wait online on the phone? Is it better to go to a gate agent or things like that?
Absolutely. When I tell people, even when I do it, and they call up and said, oh my God, I say, where are you? Well, I'm at the gate. Perfect. Do you see an agent? Yes. Keep me on the phone and keep going. Do not get out of line. Do not let them tell you to call, because you'll be put further back. You keep going and you get up there. When you get there, you ask them, but you keep a smile on your face. You keep it low keyed. And you say, listen, I have to get out. When can you get me out? What's the best possibility? And usually with my clients, when they're close enough and they get me, I usually stay with them while they're going up to the gate. But the tip is, you never leave the gate area. You always talk to an agent and you let them take care of you right away, because they will do it if they put you off, or if they say to you, oh, call your travel agent. Well, that's BS, because once you travel, I cannot touch that record. I can't do it.
Okay. That's good to know.
without a penalty. I mean, they'll say, so I said to them, don't let them do that to you. You
Right.
take care of it. And I have to say 99 out of 9 times, it's got to be a crazy deal out there not to be able to get them out, and sticking with the known airlines, that's the other thing, because they will be more apt to, one, take care of you, and two, may look at one of their partners or whatever to get you out.
I'm sorry, that's probably a good tip that people think sometimes, that these lesser known airlines have really great deals sometimes, but they may not have that infrastructure to put you into the system if something goes wrong.
Right. And just the one last thing to that, if you're on a nonstop flight, continue on a nonstop flight. I get a lot of people that are calling and say, just get me out of here. I don't care how I have to go. I don't care what I have to do. Get me out of here. But the deal is that if you take a change of planes and something's gone with weather, you're going to get stuck somewhere else. You don't need to do that. So you stick with the nonstop, if that's the way you're going, so that you avoid any future, because then they get halfway home and say, okay, I'm going to rent a car. Really? Now who's going to pay for my bills? Well, that's silly. Just stay where you are. One more day is not going to kill you. That's the bar.
And you just mentioned a key word too. Rental cars are a whole other animal these days. I spoke with somebody that I work with who are you ready for this? He has 7 weddings to go to between now and October. His whole family decided that everything's happening this 3 months. And he got rerouted and had to move his rental car from one airport to another for a pickup, and it tripled his cost. So people don't realize just how expensive rental cars are these days too.
Well, and with the rental car deal, when all this COVID hit, all these rental car companies sold all their vehicles off, sold them. And then when they came back to seeing how it was, they started bringing back their vehicles. Problem is, the rental cars have doubled or tripled. I have clients over in Italy, they're leaving next week, rented a van, and we looked at some prices. And I got in, and for the time, and the key over there really is a standard versus an automatic.
Oh, yeah.
The rental van was $6,000. I said to the operator, I said, they don't want to buy the car. They just want to rent the car. I mean, it's all over. I mean, in the States, somebody's going the other day, this car is $600, going to Vegas, $600 for 5 days for a mid-sized car with unlimited mileage. And they're not done, because they'll hit them with insurance. They'll hit them with the whole thing. So everybody says, well, I got corporate. Yeah, well, lots of luck. That's the thing.
So we know that inflation is taking its toll right now in everything, including the travel industry. What about if I'm thinking about booking farther out? Are there deals that you can get? How does the pricing work? Is it the farther out you go and you book ahead of time, the less you can get the trip for?
Well, yes. The farther out you go, especially with the airfare, the hotels aren't the issue. The properties aren't the issue. The resorts aren't the issue. It's looking at when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm looking at 3 months from now or 6 months from now, and I'll look at the dates and I'll say, okay, I'll look at a couple destinations, and then I'll look at the timing, the date. And when I do that, just to see how it's going to go, the availability is better when you're farther away. However, people think that when they get to the holidays, they don't realize, they think 6 months is good. And at that point, that's a whole different deal, because Christmas, the kids and all the calendars come out for the school April, beginning of May. And people already know what they're going to do, have an idea. So when they're looking at, when you're going, people will come to me in September and say, we want to go in December. And I'll say, this December? Yeah, well, I don't know. It's going to cost. And it's crazy. But, you have to look at, at the time frame, at the weekends, Labor Day, Memorial Day. You look at Easter and the kids are out, and so they definitely need to be far out. The other ones, yes, if you can book 6 months out, it's back to that. It's no longer, because people think nobody's traveling, and yeah, they're traveling with less equipment, less out there, less capabilities. So that's what the story is.
So I know one of your specialties over these many years has been cruises. And what are some of the changes that we're seeing on cruise ships, or the length of cruises in this post-pandemic world where a lot of people are worried about being that close together? Some of these
Well,
ships are huge, right? I mean, they've got 3,000 passengers.
or more. Can you imagine being on a cruise ship with 4,000 of your closest friends? Yeah, no. But in any event, on the cruise ships, what they've done, they've reduced the mask requirement, so they're not doing mask only if you're not vaccinated. So as far as the cruise goes, you still have to be have a negative PCR or antigen test 2 days before you embark. Once you get on board, you're not required to wear the mask. What the cruises have done is that during this pandemic, they went through and they refurbished their ships, in that they took out some of their staterooms and they made them for the medical area. So what's that? Infirmary, right? So that if you took ill, you could go out of your stateroom and you could go to and stay there and be isolated if that was the case, so you wouldn't. You are also tested when you come home the day before you come back in. Now it's kind of interesting. I just had clients come back from Alaska, 2 sets on the same cruise, came back same day. I was talking to both of them, and the one got home and ended up with COVID, she and her husband. And they were tested and everything was negative, and they just kind of chalked it up to being, they're all vaccinated and boosted and whatever. But, you know, the unfortunate part is the cruises have really taken a major hit. We've all taken a hit, but the cruises, because they were really, and I hate the expression, dead out of water, but they were dead in the water because they had to keep going with their engines and whatever, and minimal crew. And they've tried to refurbish, and they're going out 75% full. They're still not going out at full capacity because they want to be able to handle the people and if anything comes up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I'll come back to you for a couple of things, but Sarah, let's bring you into the conversation. Thank you for being patient. Let's talk a little bit about some tips that travelers can take with them in terms of how they're using their money, what they should be doing, what they should avoid.
Yeah, Lisa, thanks for asking. I would absolutely recommend that. Number one, make sure you have more than one card, right? You're not bringing one card with you because you lose that card and now you have no access to your funds. So bring more than one plastic with you. Make sure that they're EMV trip enabled, especially if you're traveling internationally.
What does that mean, EMV?
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you. So on your card, you should, most cards, and definitely Hudson Valley cards, most cards have a little chip on the front of the card that when you insert it into the gas pump or at any merchants that you're familiar with, you'll have to leave it in there before you pull it out. That chip is what works abroad, right? So if you leave the US, that's what you really need, particularly in Europe and those other areas. So the other thing is to bring cash, and you want to bring cash in the currency for where you're going to be. You want to make sure you're not stuffing all the cash in one spot in your travel, right? Because you lose that and now you've lost all your cash. So make sure that you're prepared to maybe lose a little stack just in case.
That's a good thing though, when you think about it. A lot of us have safes in our hotel rooms or on our cruise ship or anything. Irene, if we'd put some of that money in there, if you're traveling abroad, should you leave your passport in the safe?
Well, absolutely. I would, with all that goes on, because once you're there, you don't need it for anything. And just as one little point to Sarah on, bringing cash, what we've been advising is, and my own experience is, instead of, you bring a little bit of cash, but you get your ATM card. Your ATM card is used all over, and you're able to get money as you need it. We learned that when we were in Italy a couple years ago, and it just made life so much easier. And the rate of exchange is that day. It's not like, your credit cards anyway, a lot of them don't charge you that fee, just to add on that. But yeah, that's the thing. I put everything in the safe. And when Sarah says, hey, take a credit card, take two, I make sure I tell my clients, take photos of your card. You take copies of them, your insurance card, your credit card. You make sure you take them with you, and you put them in a separate spot. If it gets lost, you have access to making a phone call, and you always notify your banking institution that you're going to be out of town. And if there is a ATM card that's connected to your credit card, to your checking account or savings, make sure that you limit the amount of funds so you don't lose all of it. That's my point on that.
And you're absolutely right. And one of the biggest things is to notify your financial institution, right? Because with fraud, and it's all over the place out there, if you swipe your card and you're in a destination that your financial institution is not used to seeing, you risk a declined transaction. And make sure your financial institution has your cell phone numbers, your email addresses, right? So they can communicate with you. If there's a fraudulent transaction and you're in another time zone, it might be difficult to reach your financial institution when you're awake, right? But if you're emailed enabled, a lot of those fraud alerts will hit you wherever you are 24/7, and then you can acknowledge your transaction and get on with your day without any interruption to getting your money.
I know a lot of people, if they're traveling and they're thinking to themselves, I'm just going to go to an ATM like Irene suggested, and I'm going to take out some cash in France, or I'm going to take something out in Madrid, or this and that. I walk up to the ATM. I might not see an ATM that I'm familiar with, like in the States. Like at the credit union, it says checking and savings. Am I right, Sarah?
You're absolutely right, Lisa. There's a couple of things with ATMs. First, make sure that you're using a card that you can travel abroad with, right? So I know Hudson Valley issues just ATM cards. Those are not going to work for you overseas. You need a Visa check card, and check your networks on the back of the card. You'll be able to see when you walk up to the ATM, will this work with my card? But on top of that, Lisa, you make a really good point. If you don't know the language, know your account numbers. And because that will translate wherever you are. And if you don't want to remember them, that's okay, because on online banking, you should be able to access it, where you should be able to see that on your mobile device, wherever you are, anytime.
That's right. That's true. And with internet and mobile banking, you can check your accounts no matter what time zone you decide to travel to.
Absolutely. And to Irene's point, if you're limiting what's on your card to make sure that if it's stolen, somebody has less access to your cash, with online banking, you can move whatever you need into the cards that you brought with you.
I'll bet some people take their cards with them and don't even think to check their expiration dates.
That is such a good point. Lisa, this happens for sure. I mean, we've overnighted cards all over the world as a result of this, and overnight is not overnight anymore after COVID, right? So, check your the day you book your trip, check your expiration dates. Am I at risk? Your financial institution can absolutely help you get a card that's going to be available to you without any of that risk.
I'm sure the same thing is true in terms of passport renewals, Irene. Those are taking forever, I understand.
Well, that's one of the biggest, and it's funny, Sarah mentions, hey, check your expiration date. First thing when somebody calls about an international Caribbean trip or a European trip, so how's your passport looking? What's your expiration date? Oh, I don't have a passport. Really? And you want to go next month? Yeah, you're not going. It's taking 6 to 8 weeks to get them. Even expediting could take that long. So the very first thing is, you need a passport to travel internationally. And you really need to have 6 months from when you come back left on it. So in other words, if we're in 2022 and you're going to travel, say in September of 2022, and you look at 6 months, you need to have until March, right? That's 6
Yep.
months of 2023 to the end of March on your passport. And people will say, well, I have enough time, I'm close. Yeah, you can't play with that because you could get stuck. They could not allow you to travel. Interesting point is that I always have people check. I had a client years ago, travel, 6 women, went away, whatever, went to Italy. They decided that, they were going. They get to the airport, they get to Rome, everything's great. They go to check into their flight to Florence, and the gate agent says, do you realize you're traveling, one woman, on your husband's passport?
Oh my goodness.
She got from Newark to Rome on her husband's passport. It wasn't until Rome that they saw it.
Oh my
And they
heavens.
said to her, you're never going to get home well, they were only gone for 6 days. 5 of them was in the consulate trying to get the passport to get her back home.
Oh my
So
heavens.
you need to check expirations. You need to check to make sure you have the correct one. Some people get new ones and then they forget to replace them. They don't sign, or they get a new one, they don't sign them. They show up and they don't like it when you don't sign your passport. So that's all.
Oh my
That's all
goodness.
interesting.
Wow.
Should have wrote a book.
So Sarah, I think I kind of know the answer to this because you were mentioning how take more than one card with you. And I think most people might think about they take a debit card as well as a credit card. Is there really a difference when you're traveling? Is there one card that's better than another, or is having both like the ideal?
Having both is the ideal because on your credit card, you could do a cash advance at an ATM if you need cash, but it's going to cost you with interest. So having both is really ideal. A credit card to travel is nice, particularly if you have a card with has no conversion fee. That is really nice. And there are cards that are built for travelers, right? That the cards have additional concierge services that you might be able to utilize when you're away to find the right excursion for you, the right restaurant for you, and so on and so forth. So take advantage of your Visa benefits, your MasterCard benefits, whatever card you use, because those things are built in as just being a card holder.
I'm sure we've been seeing a lot of members who have built up their rewards points on their Visa cards with us. And now they're saying, yes, I finally get to use them. It's like they're ready to go. Is there any other tips, Sarah, that you could give someone, or maybe something that's really important that we've forgotten about?
I recommend that when you're traveling, you enable alerts, right? So that when you are using your card, you understand, particularly when you're talking about not in the US, right? You understand how those transactions are hitting your accounts, and when one authorizes versus when it posts. Those alerts will help you to understand the conversion rates and everything else that occur with this. So I do encourage, if you're traveling, to enable this. And I can't stress it enough. Irene already said it. We already said it, Lisa, but do notify your financial institution.
Yes. And I have family that have gone to, like Omaha or Texas, and they didn't notify us, and they call me and they're like, well, you work for the credit union, help me. And it's like, I'm in the marketing department, people can't do that,
I know.
So.
My husband always tells me, you are my ATM.
That's right. That's right. The personalized service goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
Irene, if there's one thing as we wrap this up that you could tell travelers these days, what do you think is something that they all should really remember?
Pack your patience. Without a doubt, pack your patience, because it's fun to get out there and it should be a fun time. But airports, like you mentioned, are delays. The agents put up with a lot of stuff. And when you're there, the people, the agents aren't happy because, you're anxious and whatever. So pack your patience. We're still recovering. Unfortunately, it's going to take a while longer. And you just have to just be patient and keep a smile on your face, because that's the key.
There you go. And my mother always used to say, kill them with kindness.
That's
And
it.
so recognizing that everyone is short-staffed these days, and I'm sure that the people at the resorts are having just as much of a hard time filling server positions and everything. So, but it is nice to finally talk about things like this, that we are going to be able to get away. And so thank you both, Irene Hunt and Sarah Gillespie, for joining us to talk about this. And if anyone's watching and you have questions, or you have suggestions for future webinars that we can put on, please email us at community@hvcu.org. So thank you all very much for joining us, and have a great day. Safe travels, everyone.